What's up? What's up? What's up, family? What's up? What's up? What's up? It is your man, Juan J. Johnson, coming at you live. I told you I was going to come. I told you I was going to go live on yesterday, and I am here. I am live. It's going to be a very interesting dialogue on today. I want you guys to get your libations, call your friends, call your family members, and let them know that I am officially live. I am live right now. Okay, I'm live. Hoping you can hear me. Hoping you can hear me. I'm not going to mess with no speakers right now. I'm just going to keep things the way they are. I'm not sure if you can see me. If you can see me, please hope you can hear me. I want to turn. Give me some hearts. Give me some thumbs up, something like that. Give me some thumbs up if you can see me. Give me a thumbs up if you can see me. Give me some hearts. Give me some thumbs up, something like that. Give me some thumbs up. Let me turn this thing down. Okay. So again, the topic of today is the root. It's going to be the root of gun control. I repeat, the topic of today would be the root of gun control. And my premise is this, family. When you don't know the history of a thing, you don't know the mystery of it. But if you know the history, you can remove the mystery. So before I get into my topic, let me first say this. You can go to lonewolffirearms.com. That's lonewolffirearms.com for all your firearms needs. If you're interested in HQLs, which is a handgun qualification license, it's a 4-hour course, 4.5-hour course. Maryland, DC, and Virginia. I repeat, Maryland, DC, and Virginia, we can get you certified. If you're interested in the wear and carry or the concealed carry, which is Maryland, DC, and Virginia, we will get you certified. It is a 16-hour class. I repeat, the wear and carry or the concealed carry weapons is a 16-hour course. If you go to lonewolffirearms.com, you will see the scheduled training courses. Mondays and Wednesdays, we have an intro to firearms. I repeat, on Mondays and Wednesdays, from 12 to 2 is an intro to firearms. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, we have the HQLs, which is a 4.5-hour class from 9 to 1:30. And then on that Friday and Saturday, you have your wear and carries, and then you have your concealed carry weapons. Those are from 9 to 5, 16 hours, no way around it. You must do 16 hours per the state of Maryland. We also offer tactical training, tactical shooting, laser tactical training. We also try to advise all current law enforcement, current and retired military or law enforcement to take part in training to become more situational aware. We want you to get whatever training you need as long as you're still on the job. Going to the range and you are a law enforcement official once a year is not enough. You need to go at least twice a month. If you go twice a month, that's 24 times out the year. If you go once a month, it's 12 times out the year. There's 52 weeks in a year. If you're in law enforcement right now, if you're an armed SPO, if you're a county, sheriff, municipal, district police officer, state trooper, you need to be going to the range at least twice a month. That's 24 times in a year. The minimum, okay? The minimum should be twice a month because right now you are doing the job. You are doing the job, okay? You are doing the job. So again, we need you to hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Be right back. Go. All right, I'm back. I'm back, family. I am back. I think I'm frozen too. So look, if you can hear me, I need you to give me a thumbs up. I need somebody to give me a thumbs up or type something inside the chat to make sure that you hear me and I'm broadcasting. Give me something. I'm not sure. I don't want to go a couple of minutes and I'm not broadcasting. I want to make sure that you can hear me. Okay? Can anybody hear me out there? Okay. So, can I get a thumbs up? Anybody? All right, I keep on going. I just got to believe that you can hear me. So, with that said, again, I was saying the wear and carry and the concealed carry weapons is 16 hours. Also, if you are interested in becoming an armed or unarmed SPO, Special Police Officer, we can give you the information you need to become an unarmed Special Police Officer. So there's no excuses, no excuses. And if you have guns that you have inherited or guns that was given to you and you have no need of them no more, you don't want them no more, we will do the paperwork. You do not have to turn them over to the police department or the sheriffs. We will come to your location. We will provide the information where we can transfer the guns to the company for educational purposes. I repeat, if you have unwanted firearms at your house in your possession and you do not want those unarmed firearms, you can call or contact lonewolffirearms.com or lonewolffirearm@gmail.com. That's lonewolffirearm@gmail.com. And we will come and take ownership by doing the transfer paperwork to the company for educational purposes. Also, if you want to make any size donation or you want to give to the Lone Wolf, you can go to the Cash App, Lone Wolf Firearm. That's $ Lone Wolf Firearm. You see it on the screen. $ Lone Wolf Firearm. It's on the screen. Again, those are the preliminaries I need to get out the way. I'm hoping again that you guys can hear me. And we're going to go straight into this topic right now. The root of gun control. The root of gun control. There's a lot of gun information out here. And I'm gonna take my time with this because this is not this video is for posterity. This video is for the generation that's probably coming after me. This video is for people who basically don't have a history of the gun. You don't have the history of firearms. I think the reason why a lot of us are so emotional and why a lot of us don't understand this whole gun argument is because we don't know the history. I posted the other day two books that I want you to purchase. Okay, let me see if I can go to my screen real quick. Get it out of here. This book right here. This book is called The American Slave Code in Practice and in Theory, The American Slave Code and Practicing in Theory. Again, the American Slave Code in practice and in theory should be required reading. It should be required reading for every American, whether you're white, Asian, Latino, Black, Caribbean, West Indian, African. If you if you place your feet on the shores of America, you need to read this book, The American Slave Code in Practice and in Theory, and another book, David Walker's Appeal to the Colored People of the World. I repeat, David Walker's Appeal to the Colored People of the World. Why are these books important? Well, the slave code is important because it dealt with all of the slave codes that was on the books. The slave code is important because we've never dealt with the slave codes. Many of you probably ask me, what is a slave code? A slave code is a code that was on the books and it was practiced by everybody in the society, Black and white. So let me go to my screen. Go to my screen. So the big picture of me is going to disappear, and I'm going to show you. I'm going to share my screen, and you'll see the book. The book. Let me see something. So, let's see something. What is this? There we go, right here. There we go, right here. So this is the table of contents for the American Slave Code in practice and in theory. Again, this is the table of contents for the American Slave Code in practice and in theory. This book was written, I believe, in 1853 by William Goodell. William Goodell, he was an abolitionist. I'm gonna give you some history on him. But this book was written by William Goodell, an abolitionist. And I just want to show you some of the table of contents of this book if you decide to get this book. Because again, when you know the history of a thing, you remove the mystery of the thing. And all this talk about gun control, it deals with one group of people. They have you thinking it's about controlling their white brothers and sisters and taking the guns from their hands. But when I finish with this expository, you're going to see that gun control is rooted in keeping Black folks from having guns. I repeat, that gun control, the root of gun control is keeping Black people from having guns. It's always been this way. Before I get into the subject, let me give you some of the table of contents for this book, The American Slave Code. Chapter 1, the relationship of a master and slaves. There was a relationship. There was an unspoken relationship and a spoken relationship between the master and the slave. Okay. Chapter 2, that was part 1. Chapter 1 dealt with slave ownership. The fundamental idea of modern slave holding, namely the assumed principle of human chattelhood or property in man, constituting the relation of owner and property, of master and slave. You need to understand this. You need to understand this. These are codes that was on the book that everybody in the society was on page with. Chapter 3 dealt with slave traffic. Slave traffic, sale, purchase, barter, mortgage, auction, shipments, as absolutely as in the case of any other property and by the same tenure. Okay, I'm going somewhere with this. Trust me. It's going to all come back to the guns. You watch what I tell you. Chapter 3, seizure of slave property for debts. Seizure of slave property for debts. I mean, again, I'm sharing my screen. As property, slaves may be seized and sold. Say that again. As property, slaves may be seized and sold to pay the debt of their owners while living for the settlement of their estate after their decease. And all this I'm reading is coming out this book right here, The American Slave Code in Practice and in Theory. The American Slave Code in Practice and in Theory. Okay. Chapter 4, inheritance of slave property. Slaves as properties are transmitted by inheritance or by will to heirs at law or litigants. In the distribution of estates, they are distributed like any other property. This is them talking about how you distribute slaves. We're talking about people. We're talking about my ancestors. We're talking about your ancestors. That's the property that they were referring to. Okay? See something. Let's go to, what's it, chapter 5, use of slave property. Slaves as property may be used absolutely by their owners for their own profit or pleasure. Okay? Chapter 5, slaves, the use of slave property. Slaves as property may be used absolutely by their owners for their own profit or pleasure. Okay? Chapter 7, slaves can possess nothing. Being property themselves, they can own no property nor make any contract. Okay? The next chapter, slaves cannot marry. Being held as property and incapable of making any contract, they cannot contract marriage recognized by law. Did you see that? Okay, I'm just scrolling up, family, scrolling up. The next chapter, slaves cannot constitute families. These are the black codes, family. The black codes that was enforced from, I would say, from the 1600s up until after the Civil War ended. Okay, slaves cannot constitute families, being property, goods, and chattel personnel to all intents, constructions, and purposes whatsoever. They have no claim on each other, no security from separation, no marital rights, no personal rights, no family government, no family education, no family protection. Okay, that's chapter 8. Chapter 9 says, unlimited power of slaveholders. Say this again, unlimited power of slaveholders. The power of the master or owner is virtually unlimited. The submission required of the slave is unbounded. The slave, being property, can have no protection against the master and has no redress for injuries inflicted by the masters. That's chapter 9, family. Read it again. The power of the master or owner is virtually unlimited. Masters, their wives, their children had unlimited power over our ancestors. The submission required of the slave is unbounded. The slave, being property, can have no protection against his master and has no redress for injuries inflicted by his master. That's chapter 9. Chapter 10, labor of slaves. The slave, being chattel, may be worked at the discretion of his owner as other working chattel are, like a pig, like an ox, like sheep, like a horse. The slave being chattel, not a human. That's what they say, chattel slavery. The slave being chattel may be worked at the discretion of his owner as other working chattel are. Meaning, the slave could have put in 16 hours, right? And the owner could get up in the middle of the morning and say, "Get up, boy, get up. I need you out that field." From sunup to sundown. And the slave could not resist. Okay, that's chapter 10. Let me keep going. Again, I'm going to take my time with this. Chapter 11, food, clothing, and dwellings of slaves. The slave as chattel is fed or famished, covered or uncovered, sheltered or unsheltered at the discretion or convenience of his owner, like other working animals. That's a slave code, family. These are codes I'm reading to you. These codes were the law of the land. These are laws I'm reading to you. The slave as chattel is fed or famished, covered or uncovered, sheltered or unsheltered at the discretion or convenience of his owner, like other working animals. Okay. So again, I could probably go through, I could probably just do a whole series just on the table of contents of this one book. Again, this book is called The American Slave Code in Practice and in Theory, The American Slave Code in Practice and in Theory by William Goodell. I say it should be required reading because white folks and black folks are still on code as pertaining to this book. But it's a silent code, and black folks do things not knowing that you're only still working within the framework of the code. Okay. So again, I may have to come back and just do just one episode or two parts to the slave code. Actually, I got a video on the slave code, but maybe just do something about the table of contents because I want to move my conversation further. Let me move further. With that said, let me keep going. So let's deal with gun control. Let's deal with gun control. Oh no. Let me do two more. Punishment of slaves by the owner and hire. Being the absolute property of the owner, the slave is wholly in his power without any effectual restraint. Okay. Of laws concerning the murder and killing of slaves, the structure of the laws and the condition of the slaves render adequate protection impossible. The slaves were unprotected. Your ancestors, my ancestors were unprotected. Okay. So again, I may just have to come back and just do me a whole video on just the table of contents alone. Because again, these were laws on the book. These laws are still on the book. And these laws are being practiced subtly by the dominant culture still. Okay. So let's move this conversation forward because I want to get here. I don't want to deal with the NRA right now. I want to get here. Where am I at? Right here. Okay. The Racist Origin of the U.S. Gun Control by Steve Eakwell. Again, the racist origins of U.S. gun control. Laws designed to disarm slaves, freedom, and African Americans or Native Black Americans. Okay. Because everybody, all Black folks at that time in America didn't all come from Africa. You had some folks that was native to this country, and what they all had in common was their color. If you was not white, then you come under that code. You was treated within the code. So I'm gonna read some of this. The racist origins of the U.S. gun control, because at the end of the day, all this gun talk deals with one people, and that's you and I. I need you to share this video. I need you to share this video. I need you to share this video, okay? Because again, I don't think we've had this conversation about the origins of gun control. We haven't had the conversation about the impact that the gun control or the slave codes have had on Black people. I'm even one of the first people. I may be one of the first people who's maybe making this connection right now between the slave codes and gun control. But we're going to keep on reading right now. So, before the Civil War ended, slave codes prohibited slaves from owning guns. Say this again. Before the Civil War ended, slave codes prohibited slaves from owning guns. After President Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, and after the 13th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution abolished slavery was adopted, and the Civil War ended in 1865, states persisted in prohibiting Blacks, now freemen, from owning guns under laws renamed Black Codes. Your Black Codes will be equivalent to your 10 Commandments or your laws from God. Well, everybody was on the same page enforcing the laws. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not commit adultery. We all can quote those laws in the scriptures, but you can't quote not one Black code. And that's why I'm here, to awaken you to these codes that were on the book, and they're still on the book to this day. Okay? Let me keep reading. They did so on the basis that Blacks were not citizens. Okay? And this did not have, and by this, they did not have the same rights, including the right to keep and bear arms protected in the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution as whites. These views were specifically articulated by the Supreme Court in the infamous 1857 decision, Dred Scott versus Sanford, to uphold slavery. I need you guys to look up the Dred Scott case. I need you to look up the Dred Scott case. Back in those days, white people believed that no white man had to abide by no Black man at that time was respected, and they believed that there was no laws that white people had to adhere to when it came down to Black folks, to Native Black Americans, to Negroes, to colors, to Blacks. Okay? The United States Congress overrode most of the Black codes by passing the Civil Rights Act of 1866. The legislative histories of both the Civil Rights Act and the 14th Amendment, as well as a special report of the Anti-Slavery Conference of 1867, are replete with denunciations of those particular statutes that denied Blacks equal access to firearms. Okay, which it says handgun prohibition in the original meaning of the Second Amendment, 82 Michigan L. Reverend. So these are case laws I'm citing. So if you can blow up the screen and you can hone in what I'm reading, just pull it up, type inside your Google searcher or your Bing searcher, and it should come up. After the adoption of the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution in 1878, most states turned to facially neutral business or transaction taxes on handgun purchases. However, the intention of these laws was not neutral. As an article in Virginia official university law required called for a prohibition tax on the privilege of selling handguns as a way of disarming the son of Ham, okay, whose cowardly practice of toting guns has been one of the most fruitful sources of crime. It says, let a Negro board a railroad train with a quart of mean whiskey and a pistol in his grip, and the chances are that there will be a murder. Okay? All right? So let me just go on down here to the sample slave codes, black codes, economic based gun bans used to prevent the arming of African Americans or Native Black Americans. Again, the two are synonymous. From 1640 to 1995. Now watch this. 1640 is significant, family, because on paper, they said that we arrived here in 1619. Okay. They say that we've arrived here in 1619 on paper, family. But by 1640, they started the process of prohibiting Negroes, blacks at the time from owning guns. Okay, so let's go. Let's go through the history right now. 1614 Virginia, race-based total gun and self-defense ban, prohibiting Negroes, slaves, and free from carrying weapons, including clubs. The Los Angeles Times to fight crime, some black attacks, January 19, 1992. So I'm gonna give you the article. You can pull up the article. The story is written in the Los Angeles Times, 1992. Okay, but in 1640, in Virginia, Negro slaves and free, they was prohibited from carrying weapons, including clubs. Okay, let's keep going. 1614 Virginia, race-based total gun ban, that all such free mulattoes, Negroes, and Indians shall appear without arms. Number 7, the statute at large being of collection of all the laws of Virginia from the first session of the legislation in the year, that's going to be in the year 1619, page 95, W.W. Henning, 1823. 1712, Virginia, race-based total gun ban, an act of preventing Negroes insurrections. So they wanted to ban Negroes from having guns because they didn't want to see no insurrection. Okay, that's 1712. So from 1619 to 1640 is 21 years. Within 21 years of our alleged arrival on this land, they were already banning blacks, Negroes, Indians, mulattoes from carrying and owning firearms. Okay, let me keep reading. 1712, South Carolina, race-based total gun ban, an act for the better, ordering and governing of Negroes and slaves. 7 statutes at large, South Carolina, page 353 through 54, 1836, 1873. Okay. 1791, United States, Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution ratified, reads, a well-regulated militia, okay, being necessary to the security of the free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This was the Second Amendment, 1791, right? Okay. All right. So watch this. That's 1791. Guess who came into existence 100 years later? Let me stop sharing my screen for 1 second. And let me show you. This is an official NRA guide. And on the back, if you can read that, it says the National Rifle Association is the world's leader in firearms education, safety, and training, created on the premises in 1871. So 100 years after the Second Amendment, 100 years, the National Rifle Association was birthed. Okay? Let me keep going. Okay, so we're back. We're back. Okay, I hope you can see this. 1792. 1792. Okay. 1792, blacks excluded from the militia, i.e., law-abiding males thus instilled with the right to own guns. Uniform Militia Act of 1792 called for the enrollment of every free, able-bodied white male citizen between the ages of 18 and 45 to be in the militia, and specified that every militia member was to provide himself with a musket, a firelock, a bayonet, and ammunition. Okay. But watch this. Before we go there, let me go back one. Let me go right here for 1 second. Let me go right here for 1 second. I want to deal with something real quick. I want to deal with 1831. 1831. Why do I want to deal with 1831? 1831 was the year that Nat Turner rebelled in Virginia. Okay. We don't talk about Nat Turner. We don't talk about his rebellion. But when Nat Turner rebelled in Virginia, they put together some laws that shut down Black people owning guns, and you was penalized if you had a gun. So watch this. Let me read something to you real quick. I'm reading from the natturnerproject.org, the natturnerproject.org, and it says this. Virginia laws passed March 15, 1832. Well, maybe I should wait. Let me wait. We get there. You know what? 1832, we was in the 1700s. Let me go back. I'll get there. See something, I'll get there. Yeah, I don't want to, like I said, I'm gonna take my time with this. This is for posterity. This is for posterity right here. This is for the generation after me. Yeah, let me take my time with this. Take my time with this. Yeah. So we're at 1792. Blacks excluded, want to know. Now we're at 1806 Louisiana. 1806 Louisiana. Complete gun control and self-defense ban for slaves. It says this: Black Code Chapter 33, Section 19, Law of Louisiana 150, 160, 1806 provided that a slave was denied the use of firearms and all other offensive weapons. This was 1806, family. 1806. We're talking about your ancestors and my ancestors, okay? 1806, complete gun and self-defense ban for slaves, okay? 1811, Louisiana, 1811, Louisiana, okay? I wonder if I can make this bigger. See something. Hold on a second. Let's take it bigger. Okay, it can get bigger. See something. All right. All right, yeah, what's up? I'm sorry, family. I made it bigger. So in making it bigger, you may be able to see what I'm saying now. Okay. Okay. So 1806, complete gun ban, self-defense ban for slaves. 1811, complete gun ban for slaves. April 8th, 1811, chapter 14, the laws of Louisiana, 50 to 54. It forbid the sale or delivery of firearms to slaves. Okay, so we've gone from 1640, and now we're at 1811. So we're almost 200 years in America. We're almost 200 years. We're about maybe 160 years. And for the first 160 years after 1619, the process of forbidding blacks to have guns was in full effect. Okay, slaves were having guns. It was in full effect. So 1819, South Carolina, master's permission required for gun possession by slave. Act of December 18th, 1819. 1819 Acts of South Carolina, page 2831, prohibited slaves outside the company of whites or without written permission from their master from using or carrying firearms unless they were hunting or guarding the master's plantation. Let me say that again. This is 1819 South Carolina. 1819 South Carolina. Master's permission required for gun possession by slaves. So a slave could only have a gun in his possession at the permission of his master. Okay? Or even to carry the gun. That's what it's saying. Let's go on down to 1825. 1825. Slave and free black homes search for guns for confiscation. An act to govern patrols, the 1825 Acts of Florida, page 52, 55, section 8, provided that white citizens patrols shall enter into all Negro houses and suspected places and search for arms and other offensive or improper weapons, and may lawfully seize and take away all such arms, weapons, and ammunition. Section 9 provided that a slave might carry a firearm under his statute either by means of the weekly renewable license or if in the process or if in the presence of some white person. So watch this. In 1825, they were allowing white citizen patrols, not the police, not the sheriffs. These was white citizens, not slave patrols, just ordinary citizens can go into any Negro house and suspected places. That could be your church, your businesses, and search for arms and other offensive or improper weapons, and may lawfully seize and take away all such arms and weapons and ammunition. This was 1825, family. Again, gun control has everything to do with Black folks having guns, owning guns. You need to know this. The topic is gun control is all about Blacks not having guns. That has not changed. Okay. This is why I'm having this discussion right now. Okay. This is why I'm going, this is why I'm showing you the history of gun control. And this is why I'm taking my time with this. Now we've gone from the 1640s and now we're at 1825. We're almost 200 years in America on paper, because a lot of us was here prior to 1619. Okay. But you're seeing that white citizen patrols shall enter into all, not some, all Negro houses and suspected places and search for arms and other offensive or improper weapons, and may lawfully seize and take away all such arms, weapons, and ammunition. That was in 1825. Let me keep reading. Let me keep reading. In 1828, Florida, free Blacks permitted to carry guns if court approval. The Act of November 17, 1828, Section 9, 1828, Florida Laws 174, 177, Act of January 12, 1828, Section 9, 1827, Florida Laws 97, 100, Florida went back and forth on the question of license for free Blacks. Twice in 1828, Florida enacted provisions providing for free Blacks to carry and use firearms upon obtaining a license from a justice of the peace. So you want to know where the genesis of having a license come from? Let's deal with the genesis of why you need to have a license. It comes from you being Black. Think about it. I just read it to you. Florida went back and forth on the question of licenses for free Blacks. Twice in 1828, Florida enacted provisions providing for free Blacks to carry and use firearms upon obtaining a license from the justice of the peace. So now you're seeing the first time that a license was even introduced into American culture about firearms, and it was all on the backs of making sure that free Black men, if they wanted to have a gun and carry a gun, they had to have a license and they had to go before the justice of the peace. And you got to ask this question: if we were not in America, if Black people were not in America, if foundational Black Americans were not here, or Native African Americans, or African Americans, or colored, or Negroes, if we were not in America, would they even require you to have a license? I think they wouldn't. They wouldn't. Okay. 1831, Florida, race-based total gun ban. 1831, Florida, race-based gun ban. Act of January 1831, 1831, Florida, Laws 30, Florida repealed all provisions for firearms license for free Blacks. Florida repealed all provisions for firearms license for free Blacks. 1831 is important, family. You know why? 1831 was Nat Turner Rebellion. When Nat Turner did his rebellion, everybody in the white collective was afraid. And they started to repeal the licenses for Blacks. Okay? Delaware, 1831. Delaware, free Blacks permitted to carry guns if court approval. Okay? In December 1831, legislative session, Delaware required free blacks designed to carry firearms to obtain a license from the Justice of the Peace. Herbert Anker, Nat Turner's Slave Rebellion, page 74 to 75, 1966. Again, 1831. In December 1831 legislative session, Delaware required free blacks designed to carry firearms to obtain a license from the Justice of the Peace. So Delaware followed Florida. They was all on code. They was all on code, family. Watch this. 1831, race-based total gun ban. 1831, Maryland. In December 1831 legislative session, Maryland entirely prohibited free blacks from carrying guns. In 1831, December, the legislative session, Maryland entirely prohibited free blacks from carrying guns. Let's go to Virginia. Race-based total gun ban. In December of 1831, legislative session, Virginia entirely prohibited free blacks from carrying guns, family. Now let me go to my Nat Turner's rebellion, the law that was enacted. So this is coming from the natturnerproject.org, the natturnerproject.org, and it talks about the Virginia laws passed March 15, 1832. Okay? Let me go down to the guns. Okay? Okay. So watch this. I'm looking at number 4. I'm gonna look at number 3. Number 3, no free Negro or mulatto shall hereafter be capable of purchasing or otherwise acquiring permanent ownership except by descent to any slave other than his or her husband, wife, children, and all contracts for any such purchase are hereby declared to be null and void. Let me stop right there. No. Let me go to number 4. It says this, no free Negro or mulatto shall be suffered to keep or carry in a firelock, which is a gun, of any kind, any military weapon, or any powder or lead, and any free Negro or mulatto who shall so offend shall, on conviction before the justice of the peace, forfeit all such arms and ammunition to the use of the informer, and shall moreover be punished with stripes at the discretion of the justice, not exceeding 39 lashes. So if they caught you with a gun, if you was in possession of a firelock or a gun or powder or weapons or ammunition, they could whoop the slaves no more than 39 lashes. Okay? Think about that. Watch this. 39. And the provo and the proviso to the 7th section of the act entitled An Act Reducing into One of Several Acts Concerning Slaves, Free Negroes, and Mulattoes, passed the 2nd day of March, 1819, authorizing justices of the peace in certain cases to permit slaves to keep and use guns or other weapons, powders, shots, and so much of the 8th section of the said recited act as authorized. All right. But again, on that first amendment, it says no free Negro or mulatto after the 1831 rebellion or revolt from Nat Turner shall be suffered to keep or carry any firelock of any kind, any military weapon, or any powder or lead, or any free Negro, or mulatto, they could not have guns. Could not own a gun. Okay? That's 1831, family. And look, again, and if they was caught with gun or ammo, they would have been whooped 39 lashes, family. 39 lashes. Let me keep going. 1833, Florida. Slave and free black homes search for guns for confiscation. Say this again. Slave and free black homes search for guns for confiscation. Act of February 17, 1833, Chapter 671, Section 15 through 17, and 1833, Florida laws 26, 29 authorized white citizens patrols to seize arms found in the homes of slaves and free blacks, and provided that blacks without a proper explanation for the presence of the firearms be summarily punished without benefit of judicial tribunal. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Slaves and free black homes search for guns and confiscation. So watch this. So in my mind, when I think about search your homes for gun, when I think about citizens, not police officers, just citizens, patrols can go into any black home, any slave, any black person's house and search their house for guns and ammo. And if found, they can be punished without the benefit of a judicial tribunal. They can be punished on the spot. Come on, family. This sounds like the genesis of the Fourth Amendment. Searches and seizures. Illegal search and seizures was birthed out of going inside of black folks' home looking for guns and ammo. Think about it. I may need to pull up that for. I may need to let me connect this dot. Let me connect this dot right here. Fourth Amendment. Fourth Amendment. Let's read the Fourth Amendment. Let's read the Fourth Amendment. Because this is 1789. The Fourth Amendment came about in 1789 and was revised in 1992. But it says the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath, affirmation, particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Do you know how your Fourth Amendment came about? The Fourth Amendment came about due to the illegal searches and seizures of black guns and black ammunition. And when they started to do it to white people, then they came up with the Fourth Amendment, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall be issued but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the places to be searched and the persons and things to be seized. Family, family, family. The root and the origins of the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution was birthed out of illegal search and seizures from white citizen patrols going inside black houses or businesses or churches looking for guns and ammunition. And if they found the guns and ammunition, they could summarily punish those people, our ancestors, without a judicial tribunal. And that's 1833, family. Can't make this up. See, these are the conversations that we haven't had that we need to have. Okay? Let me continue. Again, I'm going to take my time with this. I need you to share this. I need you to go to lonewolffirearm.com and register for some firearm services. This is what this is about right here. When you know the history, you remove the mystery. When you know the history of firearms and the history of why Black folks are so much against firearms and the history of why white folks don't want Black folks to have firearms, it removes the mystery. You need to share this video. This may be one of the greatest, the best videos I've did. Share this video. Okay. Let me keep going. 1833 Georgia, race-based total gun ban. Active December 23rd, 1833, Section 7, 1833 Georgia laws 226, 228 declared that it shall not be lawful for any free person of color in this state to own, use, carry firearms of any description whatsoever. Family, watch this. When you understand that the reason why Black people don't do guns or it's not on their minds is because it's been planted in them not to have the gun, not to be a responsible gun owner, gun user. The Second Amendment was never intended for Negro, Blacks, mulattoes, Indians. It was never intended for us. Okay? And I've been reading from 1640, and now we're at 1840. So from 1640 to 1840 is 200 years. 1840, Florida, complete gun ban for slaves. Act of February 25th, 1840. Number 20, Section 1, 1840, Acts of Florida. 22 and 23, may sell or deliver firearms to slaves is forbidden. Sale or delivery of firearms is forbidden. They couldn't sell them. It couldn't be delivered. Okay, you couldn't sell to them, nor be delivered. It was forbidden, family. It's 1840. Again, they start instituting in 1640 a ban on all guns, ammunition, and clubs to slaves, to Blacks, to Indians. So we're at 200 years, according to the founding fathers, we're at 200 years, right? From 1640 to 1840 is 200 years. And they have waged a campaign of do not allow the slave, the Negro, the colored, to operate, to possess, or to own a gun. Okay? So watch this though. As of January 1st, 2021, is 410 million legal guns in America. It's only 328 million Americans. You have more guns than Americans. Okay? You chew on that fat for a second. Just chew on that. 1840 Texas. 1840 Texas. Complete gun ban for slaves. An act concerning slaves. Section 6, 1840 Law of Texas. 171, 172, Chapter 58 of Texas Acts, 1850, prohibited slaves from using firearms altogether. Okay? From 1842 to 1850. This was in the Journal of Criminal Law and Criminology, Northwestern University, volume 85, number 3, Gun Control and Economics Discrimination, the melting pot case in point. T. Marcus Funk, 1995, page 797. Complete gun ban for slaves in 1840. 1850 prohibited slaves from using firearms altogether. From 1840 to 1850, slaves could not even use a firearm. Okay? Let's go here. 1844, North Carolina. 1844, North Carolina. Race-based gun upheld against because free blacks, not citizens. In State versus Newsom, 27 North Carolina, 250, 1844, the Supreme Court of North Carolina upheld a slave code law prohibiting free blacks from carrying firearms on the grounds that they were not citizens. I want you to chew on that fat for a second. Chew on that for a second. When you know the history, you remove the mystery. Say this again. Race-based gun ban upheld by the Supreme Court of North Carolina. The Supreme Court of North Carolina upheld a slave code law prohibiting free blacks from carrying firearms on the grounds they were not citizens. Okay? 1845, North Carolina, complete gun ban for slaves. Act of January 1st, 1845, Chapter 87, Section 1 and 2, 1845, the Acts of North Carolina, 124, made sale or delivery of firearms to slaves forbidden. You can't sell, deliver firearms to slaves. It was forbidden in North Carolina. Okay? I need you to share this video. I need somebody to give me a thumbs up if you can see it, if you can hear it. I guess you can hear me. 1847, Florida. Slaves and free black homes search for guns for confiscation. Say this again. 1847, Florida. Slaves and free black homes search for guns for confiscation. The Act of January 6, 1847, Chapter 87, Section 11, 1846 Florida laws 42 and 44 provided that white citizens, patrols, might search the homes of blacks, both free and slave, and confiscate arms held therein. I'm telling you, the genesis and the root of the Fourth Amendment was birthed out of these illegal seizures, searches and seizures from white citizens coming into black homes, confiscating their firearms. It was never based on white folks and guns. It's always been based on black folks and guns. Don't be fooled by this conversation about gun control. They're not trying to control guns. They don't want your black tail to have a gun. They still don't want you to have the guns. Okay? Don't y'all see that there's been a surge in gun buying? last year and this year from Black people. And most Black people probably have no knowledge of what I'm sharing with them on today about the root of gun control. This is the root of gun control, family. Okay? The root. Let me keep on going. 1848, Georgia. Race-based gun ban upheld because free Blacks, not citizens. This is 1848. Okay. This is 208 years. Because on record, well, they started to enforce the gun policy in 1640. Now we had 1848. That's 208 years. Black folks have been on this soil, in their system, and even prior to that. It says in Cooper versus Savannah, Georgia, 68-72-1848, the Supreme Court ruled free persons of color have never been recognized here as citizens. They are not entitled to bear arms, vote for members of the legislature, or to hold any civil office. This is 1848, family. This is 1848, family. 1848, the Supreme Court ruled free persons of color have never been recognized here as citizens. They are not entitled to bear arms. This gun control is all about you. Say this again. This gun control is all about you. It's not about the guns. It's not about the AK-47s. It's not about the assault rifles. It's about you. Okay? Let me keep going. Take my time with this. 1852, Mississippi, race-based complete gun ban. The Act of March 15, 1852, Chapter 206, 1852 Laws of Mississippi, 28 forbid ownership of firearms by both free Blacks and slaves. Okay? This is 1852, family. Forbid ownership of firearms by both free and Black slaves. Free Blacks and slaves. Okay? Let's go to 1857. The United States High Court upholds slavery since Blacks are not citizens. We're at 1857. Remember, we got here allegedly in 1619. Okay? We're 200, and let's say we're 240 years here. That's 1857, 19, 20, 30, 40, 50. Yeah, 57. So it was just 247 years here, allegedly, on their paperwork. 1857 United States Court, the High Court upholds slavery since Blacks not citizens. You read this? In the Dred Scott decision, in the Dred versus Sanford, Justice Taney argued if members of the African race were citizens, they would be exempt from the special police regulations applicable to them. It would give to persons of the Negro race full liberty of speech to hold public meetings upon political affairs and to keep and carry arms wherever they want. The U.S. Supreme Court held that descendants of Africans who were imported into this country and sold as slaves were not included nor intended to be included under the word citizens in the Constitution, whether emancipated or not, and remain without rights or privileges except such as those which the government might grant them, thereby upholding slavery. Also held that a slave did not become free when taken into a free state, that Congress cannot bar slavery in any territory, and that blacks could not be citizens. And that was in 1957, the United States courts. Should I read that again? Should I read that again? In the Dred Scott decision, Dred Scott versus Stanford, 60 U.S. 19-393, 1857, Chief Justice Taney argued, if members of the African race were citizens, they would be exempt from special police regulations applicable to them. So when you're not a citizen, you don't have the same rights. You don't have the rights. You don't have no rights. Okay, that's what it's saying. It would give to persons of the Negro race full liberty of speech, to hold public meetings upon political affairs, and to keep and carry arms wherever they went. However, the U.S. Supreme Court held that descendants of Africans who were imported into this country and sold as slaves were not included nor intended to be included under the word citizens. And in 2021, they still hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are not created equal. And you wonder why I'm a gun advocate. I'm a 2A man till I go to the grave. Second Amendment. Okay? Whether emancipated or not, they remain without rights or privileges except such as those which the government may grant them, thereby upholding slavery. Also held that a slave did not become free when taken into a free state, that Congress cannot bar slavery in the territory, and that blacks could not be citizens. Come on, family. Let's have this conversation. When you know the history, family, you remove the mystery. Say this again. When you know the history, you remove the mystery. The average black person did not know all these laws that's on the books forbidding them to have guns, to carry guns, to own guns. The average citizen in the 21st century do not know that in the 1800s, that the good old white citizens patrol can just randomly go inside your house if you was black, if you was mulatto, if you was Indian, could go into your house, your places of worship, your stores, okay, your dance halls, and could search for weapons and ammunition. And if found, they did not have to wait for a judicial tribunal to convict you or to whip you or to punish you. I see why black folks have the fear of owning firearms. I see why black folks have the fear of having firearms. It's been planted in them. It was planted, family. The fear of owning and possessing a firearm has been planted in them. And the laws support them not owning the gun. That's why they're so hesitant about having guns. That's why they're so scared to be a gun owner, a gun user. That's why I promote this: be a responsible gun owner and gun shooter, because what I'm doing right now in the 1800s, it would be outlawed, and they would be trying to hunt me down for trying to teach you how to shoot and be a responsible gun owner and gun user. Okay? It's just that serious. What I'm fighting right now is a spirit. It's laws that are still on the books. It's that, but those laws are not just on the books, but they're embedded in the psyche of both white and black. Because when blacks are being pulled over by whites and they're legally gun owners, the first thing the white brother do is pull out his damn gun. And he's ready to shoot. Because instinctively and legally, they're still operating within the code. And black folks are still operating within the code. Okay? Let me keep going. 1860 Georgia. Complete gun ban for slaves. Act of December 19, 1860, number 60, section 1, 1860, Acts of Georgia, 561, forbids sale or delivery of firearms to slaves. 1861, the Civil War takes place. In 1861, the Civil War takes place. In 1861, Florida, slaves and free black homes search for guns for confiscation. Act of December 17, 1861, Chapter 1291, Section 11, 1861, Florida Laws 3840 provided once again that white citizen patrols might search the homes of blacks, both free and slave, and confiscate arms held therein. The white citizen patrols. Now, I wonder what the white citizens patrol evolved into. Let's say 3Ks. Let's just say 3Ks, okay? But we'll get there. We'll get there. 1863, United States, Emancipation Proclamation. President Lincoln issued proclamation freeing all slaves in areas still in rebellion. Again, 1863, Emancipation Proclamation. President Lincoln issued proclamation freeing all slaves in areas still in rebellion. Okay? 1865, Mississippi. Blacks require police approval to own guns unless in the military. Again, 1865, Mississippi. Blacks require police approval to own guns unless in the military. Mississippi statute of 1865 prohibited blacks not in the military and not licensed so to do by the border police or his or her county from keeping or carrying firearms of any kind or any ammunition, dirk, or a Bowie knife. Okay? That's Mississippi, 1865. Prohibited blacks not in the military, civilians, and not licensed so to do by the border police of his or her country, county, from keeping or carrying firearms of any kind, or any ammunition, or any knives. Okay? That's 1865, family. Still going. 1865, Louisiana. Blacks required police and employer approval to own guns unless serving in the military. The Louisiana statute prohibited blacks not in the military service from carrying firearms or any kind of weapon without the special permission of his employers, approved and endorsed by the nearest and most convenient chief of patrol. So Mississippi was banning the guns. Louisiana was banning the guns. Okay. I mean, think about it, family. You're in a nation. You just got the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863. This is 1865. So from 1619 up until 1863 of the Emancipation Proclamation, you was enslaved. You was in slavery. You could not defend yourself. You couldn't protect yourself. You was forbidden to have a gun. You could not protect yourself from just the White Citizens Council or Patrol who had a bright idea. Let's go round up some guns. Let's go search some houses today. Let's go find some ammo. Any black person's house or their church or their business. Do you know how deep that is? We don't have these discussions. But I'm going to keep reading. 1865, the Civil War ends May 26. 1865, slavery is abolished as of December 18th, 1865. The 13th Amendment abolishing slavery was ratified. Read Section 1, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as punishment for a crime whereof the parties shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States, or in any place subject to their jurisdiction. Section 2, Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. So they abolished slavery in 1865. From 1619 to 1865, when slavery was officially abolished, but they were still making sure that blacks could not have and own a gun, and they were still allowing white patrols to come outside their houses and take the guns, unprotected. You can't make this up, family. When I tell you that the black community is unprotected, that the black woman's unprotected, I'm not speaking off no fantasy. I am a 26-year law enforcement who's no longer law enforcement, but who was an active firearm instructor, who takes pride in teaching all people how to become responsible gun owners and gun users or shooters, knowing the history of firearms and how we've been treated. And when I hear black men or women who don't believe in the Second Amendment, all I say is that, you know what, you don't believe into it until you approach with a situation where you wish you had your firearm to protect yourself. What's the expression? It's better to have a gun when you need it than to need a gun and you don't have it. It's better to have a firearm when you need it than to need one and you don't have it. And for years, for centuries, this country terrorized the black community, scared them into not even having guns, owning guns, possessing guns, to even protect their own families. You're getting the proof right here. You're getting the research right now. And now you're going to fight to do a gun ban, an assault ban. I don't want them to ban nothing. Don't ban nothing. Because this country was built on firearms. The firearm is what they call the great equalizer, family. I'm speaking code right now. I'm speaking code. And those who come across this video know I'm speaking code. The great equalizer has always been the firearm. And we got people talking about, all I need is the Lord. I don't need no gun. I'll just pray. The only reason why you enjoy your freedom, your liberty right now, because somebody has a gun. Facts. Okay? Let me keep going. 1866 Alabama, race-based total gun ban. Black Code of Alabama in January 1866 prohibited blacks to own or carry firearms or other deadly weapons and prohibited any person to sell, give, or lend firearms or ammunition or any descriptive whatever to any black person. 1866. Okay? It's 1866, family. Keep on going. 1866, North Carolina. Rights of blacks can be changed by legislature. North Carolina Black Code, not Asian Code, not Indian Code, not People of Color Code, Black Code. And they're still on the books today. Chapter 40, 1866, North Carolina Seas Laws 99 stated, all persons of color who are now inhabitants of this state shall be entitled to the same privileges and are subject to the same burdens and disabilities as by the laws of the state were conferred on and were attached to free persons of color prior to the ordinances of the emancipation, except as the same by change by law. So what it's saying is this: it took the legislator to change the law that gave black people the entitlement and the privileges that the whites had. Read it again. North Carolina Black Code, Chapter 40, 1866, Laws 99 stated, all persons of color are now inhabitants of the state shall be entitled to the same privileges. From 1619, now we're 1866, North Carolina passed the law. Legislator says now black folks can enjoy the same privileges. Okay, as whites. But this is 1866. All right. 1866, the United States says this. Civil Rights Act of 1866 enacted. Circle of Civil Rights Act of 1866 did away with badges of slavery embodied in black codes, including provisions which prohibited any Negro or mulatto from having firearms. Okay. Congress, Globe, 39th Congress, first session, part 1, 474, the 29th of January, 1866, Senator William Salisbury from Delaware added, in my state, for many years, there has existed a law which declares that free Negroes shall not have the possession of firearms or ammunition. This bill proposes to take away from the state this police power, and thus voted against the bill. The Civil Rights Act of 1866 was a precursor to today. Okay, a portion of which still reads, all citizens of the United States shall have the same right in every state and territory as is enjoyed by white citizens thereof, to inherit, purchase, lease, sell, hold, and convey real and personal property. Okay? So we're like 250 years into American history right now. 1860, so from 1619 to 1866. Now they're saying all citizens of the United States should have the same right in every state and territory. This was the court saying this. All right, 1866. Also, in 1866, the United States proposed the 14th Amendment. And let me be very clear. The 14th Amendment was not intended for Asians, Latinos, Hispanics, whatever you would call it. The 14th Amendment is not intended for no of these 21st century people of color. The 14th Amendment is exclusively to foundational Black Americans. Okay? I'm very clear on this. These folks are trying to reinterpret the law to make us a great big melting pot. No. The blood of my ancestors are still crying from the grave, saying, never forget. Asians, Latinos, they have not spilled the blood that our ancestors spilled. Let me keep reading now. Proposed 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution debated. Opponents of the 14th Amendment objected to its adoption because they oppose federal enforcement of the freedoms in the Bill of Rights. Senator Thomas A. Hendricks of Indiana said, if this amendment be adopted, we would then carry the title of citizenship and enjoy its advantages in common with the Negroes, the Coolies, and the Indians. Okay? They were still debating, should Negroes, mulattoes, and Indians enjoy equal rights? They didn't want to share their equal rights. And they still don't want to share equal rights. Okay? Congress Globe 39th, Congress First Session, Part 3, 2939, the 4th of June, 1866, Senator Reverdy Johnson, counsel for the slave owner, and Dred Scott opposed the amendment because it is quite objectionable to provide that no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges and immunities of citizens of the United States. Thus, the 14th Amendment was viewed as necessary to redress the Civil Rights Act of 1866, especially since the act is pronounced void by the jurists and courts of the South. Okay. Florida has a misdemeanor for colored men to carry weapons, and the punishment is whipping. Okay? So, it's a lot of that. Let me keep going. I'm going on 2 hours into this. But you know what? This is important. This is not even for the old heads. It's for the young heads. Because the young ones need to get this information. This stuff should have been taught to, this should have been taught to us in school. This should be required learning if you Asian, African, African American, West Indian, Trinidadian, white, Hispanic. If you consider yourself an American, you need to know the history of gun control and how it's affected the Black community. Okay? Watch this. In 1866, the Ku Klux Klan was formed. In 1866. So those citizens patrols evolved to the Ku Klux Klan. All right. Purpose was to terrorize blacks who voted, temporarily disbanded in 1871, reestablished in 1915, in debating that would become the 42nd U.S. Secretary, 1983, today's federal civil rights statute. Representative Butler explains, this provision seems to your committee to be necessary because they had observed that before these midnight marauders, the KKK made attacks upon peaceful citizens. There were very many instances in the South where the sheriff of the county had preceded them and taken away the arms of their victims. This was especially noticeable in Union County, where all the Negro population was disarmed by the sheriff only a few months ago under the order of the judge, and then the sheriff having disarmed the citizens, the 500 masked men rode at nights and murdered and otherwise maltreated the 10 persons who were in jail or in the county. So the sheriffs took the guns and the KKK came in and murdered the people. A defenseless, armless group of ancestors. Y'all hearing this? You getting this? In 1867, United States, the special report of the anti-slavery conference of 1867 report noted that particular emphasis that under the black codes, blacks were forbidden to own or bear firearms and thus were rendered defenseless against assaults. Okay? Okay? It's going to be a long video. Just bear with me. It's just that important. I'm 1 hour and 45 minutes in. That's good. You may want to cut it off. You may want to, I'm gonna do the whole thing. I'm gonna do the whole thing, and then you just go back over and go back over it and re-listen to it. Okay, this is important. 1868, United States. The 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution adopted conveying citizenships to blacks. Say this again. In 1868, the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution adopted conveying citizenships to blacks. So from 1619, now we at 1868, and black folks are not still considered citizens. They're now considering adopting citizenship to blacks. Reads in part, Section 1, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. The Congress shall have power to enforce by appropriate legislation the provisions of this article. And I'm going to say this again. The 14th Amendment is exclusively to Black Americans because there was nobody here from other countries like they are in the 21st century having to deal with this terrorism, this terrorist attack. Okay? I don't want to hear no people of color, no Latinos, no Africans. I don't want to hear the 14th Amendment roll from your mouth. because it dealt exclusively with us and citizenship. This was not no jambalaya peace family. Okay? Should I read again? Why not? 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution adopted, conveying citizenships to blacks. Reads in part, all persons born or naturalized in the United States. In context, from 1619 up until 1868, blacks were not considered citizens. They was considered chattel and subject to the jurisdictions thereof are citizens of the United States and of all states wherein they reside. Okay? No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without the due process of law, because they was depriving blacks of what? Life, liberty, property without due process of law, nor deigning to deny any person within his jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Blacks was not given equal protection. You see me, you've heard me read how the white citizen patrols would just go up inside black houses and just ramshack their houses looking for guns and ammo without a warrant. Illegal searches and seizures was birthed out of coming inside of black homes. Facts. Okay. 1870, Tennessee. First Saturday Night Special, economic handgun ban passed. In the first legislative session in which they gained control, white supremacists passed an act to preserve the peace and prevent homicide, which banned the sale of all handguns except the expensive Army and Navy model handguns, which whites already owned or could afford to buy, and blacks could not. Okay, we're talking about the Saturday Night Special. That was Revolver. Okay, that whites already owned and could afford to buy, but blacks could not. White Man's Law, William R. Tunzi, reason December 18, 1985, upheld in Andrews versus State. It says, the cheap revolvers of the late 19th and early 20th centuries were referred to as suicide specials. The Saturday Night Special label not becoming widespread until reformers and politicians took up the gun control cause during the 1960s. The source of this recent concern about cheap revolvers, as their new label suggests, has much in common with the concerns of gun law initiators of the post-Civil War South. As B. Bruce Briggs has written, in the public interest, it is difficult to escape the conclusion that the Saturday Night Special is emphasized because it is cheap and being sold to a particular class of people. The name is sufficient evidence. The reference is to Niggertown Saturday night. Niggertown Saturday night. Okay. And that was the Gun Control White Man's Law, William R. Tunzel, reason. Okay. A cheap gun. The Saturday Night Special was known in Blacktown as Niggertown. Niggertown Saturday Night. You learn something new every day. The Saturday Night Special is emphasized because it is cheap and being sold to a particular class of people. The name is sufficient evidence. The reference is to Nigger Town Saturday Night. The gun among the white collective was called Nigger Town Saturday Night. Come on, man. Come on, family. Come on. 1871, United States, anti-KKK bill debate in response to race-motivated violence in the South. A report on violence in the South resulted in an anti-KKK bill that stated that whoever shall, without due process of law, by violence, intimidation, or threats, take away or deprive any citizen of the United States or of any arms or weapons he may have in his house or possession for the defense of his persons, family, property shall be deemed guilty of larceny thereof and shall be punished as provided in this act for a felony. Okay. Since Congress does not have jurisdiction over simple larceny, the language was removed from the anti-KKK bill, but this section survives today as the 42 United States Code, section 1983, that any person who under color of law of any state subject or cause to be subjected any person to the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities to which he is entitled under the Constitution shall be liable in any action law for redress. Did you get that? Huh? That bill, that debate dealt with the KKK. It was called the KKK, the anti-KKK bill. Okay, that whoever shall, without due process of law, by violence, intimidation, or threats, take away or deprive any citizen of the United States of any arms or weapons he may have in his house or possession for the defense of his family, his person or property shall be deemed guilty of larceny and be punished. So this was the KKK violating the Fourth Amendment. This right here is considered the anti-KKK law, meaning this law puts the KKK in check. It lets them know you can no longer go inside Black people or anybody's house, okay, and deprive them of their citizenship, number one, take any of their arms or weapons, possession of them. You can't stop them from defending their person, themselves, their family, or their property. And if you do, you'll be guilty. That's 1871, family. 1871, the anti-KKK bill. Come on now. Let's keep going. 1875, the High Court rules has no power to stop the KKK members from disarming Blacks. So from 1871 to 1875, the High Court, you know who the High Court is, right? The Supreme Court rules. High Court has no power to stop the KKK members from disarming Blacks. In the United States versus Cruikshank, 92 U.S. at 548 through 59, 1875, a member of the KKK had been charged with violating the rights of two Black men to peacefully assemble to bear arms. The U.S. Supreme Court held that the federal government had no power to protect citizens against private action. Wow. Not committed by federal or state government authorities, that deprived them from their constitutional rights under the 14th Amendment. The court held that for protection against private criminal actions, individuals are required to look to the state governments. The doctrine in Khrushchev that blacks would have to look to the state government for protection against criminal conspiracies gave the green light to the private forces, often with the assistance of the state and local governments that sought to subjugate the former slaves and their descendants. With the protective arm of the federal government withdrawn, protection of Black lives and property was left to largely hostile state governments. What's it saying, family, is the state governments was siding with the citizens. And the federal court, they were saying, what they basically saying is this: if Black folks wanted protection, they needed to consult the federal government. That the state was not protecting them. Oh man, this was a green light for the KKK to get right back to terrorizing Blacks. Must I read it again? In the United States versus Khrushchev, a member of the KKK had been charged with violating the rights of two Black men to peacefully assemble to bear arms. The U.S. Supreme Court held that the federal government had no power to protect Blacks against private actions not committed by federal or state government authorities that deprived them of their constitutional right under the 14th Amendment. I inserted Black. The court held that the protection against private criminal action, individuals are required to look to the state governments, but the state governments was in cahoot with the citizens. Okay? The doctrine in Khrushchev that Blacks would have to look to the state government for protection against criminal conspiracies gave the green light to private forces, often with the assistance of state and local governments that sought to subjugate the former slaves and their descendants. With the protective arm of the federal government withdrawn, protection of Black lives and property was left to largely hostile state governments. Damn. If you fast forward to the 1960s, when you saw that that the president had to send the National Guard to these schools to protect Black children just trying to go to school, that the states wouldn't support it. They had to go to the National Guard. Wow. That the police was in on it. The county police was in on it. The municipalities was in on it. The local police was siding with the KKK. And the only power, the only venue that Blacks had was the federal government. Wow. When I tell you the 14th Amendment ain't got nothing to do with no other group but us. Let me keep reading. 1879, Tennessee. Saturday Night Special, economic handgun ban passed. Tennessee revamped its economic handgun ban. 9 years later, passing an act to prevent the sale of pistols, which is upheld in State versus Borgin. Tennessee, 1881. Okay. 1882, Arkansas. Third Saturday Night Special, economic handgun ban passed. Arkansas followed Tennessee lead by enacting a virtual identical Saturday Night Special, law banning the sale of any pistols other than expensive Army or Navy model revolvers, which most whites had or could afford, thereby disarming blacks. So let's go right here. Let's fast forward it. 1882, let's fast forward to 2021. The prices on guns is crazy. Make them so expensive that folks can't afford them. That the average person can't protect themselves. You got to always remember this. The wealth gap between whites and blacks is real. I think the typical white person may have about 100,000 as a collective, not individual, in the bank. Average black may have $1,200 in the bank. Okay. The Saturday Night Special law banning the sale of any pistol other than expensive Army, Navy model revolvers, which most whites had or could afford, thereby disarming the blacks. The black man and woman has been trying to protect themselves for years. And they've done, this country did everything in their power to disarm us and still maintain that disarming to this day. Gun control. Gun control is a black issue, family. It's not about the violence you see. It's not about protecting the citizens. It's about keeping the guns out of black hands. Okay? Keep going with this. 1893, Alabama. First all-gun economic ban passed. Alabama placed extremely heavy businesses and or transactional taxes on the sale of handguns in an attempt to put handguns out of the reach of blacks and poor whites. That's 1893, family. Alabama placed extremely heavy businesses and or transactional taxes on the sale of handguns in an attempt to put handguns out of the reach of blacks and poor whites. You're seeing history repeat itself. It's not about no assault rifles. It's about keeping the guns out of the hands of blacks. They won't tell you that publicly, but when you know the history, you remove the mystery. Okay? 1902, South Carolina, first total civilian handgun ban. The state banned all pistols sales except to sheriffs and their special deputies, which included the KKK and company strongmen. Okay? Cates towards a history of handgun prohibition in the United States. That's the book. Again, 1902, South Carolina. The state banned all pistol sales except to sheriffs and their special deputies, which included the KKK and company strongmen. 1906, Mississippi. Race-based confiscations. Through record keeping, Mississippi enacted the first registration law for retailers in 1906, requiring them to maintain records of all pistols and pistol ammunition sales and to make such records available for inspection on demand. So prior to 1906, they wasn't even keeping records. Mississippi enacted the first registration law for retailers in 1906. So prior to 1906, they wasn't even keeping records of how many guns they were selling to white folks or to blacks. But in 1906, requiring them to maintain records of all pistols and pistol ammunition sales and to make such records available for inspection on demand. They wanted to know who was getting the guns. Who were you selling the guns to? 1907, Texas. Saturday Night Special. Economic handgun ban. Placed extremely heavy businesses and or transactional taxes on the sale of handguns in an attempt to put handguns out of the reach of blacks and poor whites. 1911, police choose who can own guns lawfully. Sullivan Law enacted requiring police permission via a permit issued at their discretion to own a handgun. Unpopular minorities were and are routinely denied permits. White Man's Law, Williams R. Tunzel, Reason, December 1985. Here are only about 3,000 permits in New York City and 25,000 carrying permits. If you are a street corner grocer in Manhattan, good luck getting a gun permit. But among those who have been able to wrangle a precious carry permit out of the city's bureaucracy are Donald Trump, Arthur Ochos, Salzberger, William Buckley Jr., and David John Lawrence and Winthrop Rockefeller. Surprise. Racism and firearms. Firestorm. Donald Trump's father. 1911. Okay, keep on going. 1934 United States Gun Control Act of 1934. National Firearms Act passed. 1941 Florida judge admits gun law passed to disarm black laborers. In concurring opinion, narrowly construing a Florida gun control law passed in 1893, Justice Buford stated the 1893 law was passed down. There was a great influx of Negro laborers in the state. The same condition existed when the act was amended in 1901. And the act was passed for the purpose of disarming the Negro laborers. The statute was never intended to be applied to the white population and in practice has never been applied. Okay, again, your gun control is not about what you think, family. It's not about protecting the white citizens. It's not about these shooters out here, these shooters out here that's do these random action shootings. It's about controlling you from being able to handle, hold on, and be responsible gun owners, gun users. When you know the history, you remove the mystery. Okay? And I'm gonna give you a couple of historical events and context for the passage of the Gun Control Act of 1968. In 54, the U.S. Supreme Court held racial segregation of schools violates 14th Amendment. In 1955, Alabama bus segregation ordinance held unconstitutional at the boycott and the NAACP protests. In 56, massive resistance to Supreme Court desegregation ruling called for by 101 Southern congressmen. In 57, Congress approved the first civil rights law for blacks. Governor ordered the National Guard troops to prevent 9 blacks from entering an all-white school in Little Rock. President Eisenhower had to send federal military troops to enforce the court order that guardsmen be removed. And let me say this, it goes back to what I said. The county police, the state police, these municipalities, they was all in cahoots because they was all filled with the KKK. Fast forward to the 21st century, they still all filled with the KKK or members, okay? Well, the FBI has already said that the KKK has infiltrated all the police organizations nationwide. Okay. And if you just remember January 6, 2021. Okay. And 60, Sit-ins began February 1st when 4 black college students in Greensboro, North Carolina refused to move from a lunch counter after being denied service. Okay. 61, more than 70,000 students, black and white, had participated in sit-ins. In 62, 3,000 troops were required to quell riots after the University of Mississippi accepted the first black student. In 63, 200,000 people participated in a march on Washington, at which Dr. King gave his famous speech. 63, JFK was assassinated. 64, the crime bill barring discrimination in voting jobs, discrimination, and the 3 civil rights workers were missing in Mississippi, found buried 2 months later. 21 white men arrested, 7 of them whom all white federal court jury convicted of conspiracy only. Okay. 65, 34 dead in a race riot. And 66, first black U.S. senator in 85 years elected. Hold on a second. Y'all got to excuse me, man. I'm a machine right now. I've been going for 2 hours now, 2 hours and 14 minutes. But it's just as important. Okay. 67, the race riots in Newark, New Jersey killed 26, injured 1,500, with over 1,000 arrested. Race riots in Detroit killed at least 40, injured 2,000, left 5,000 homeless, was quelled by 4,700 federal paratroopers, 8,000 National Guardsmen. Thurgood Marshall sworn in October 2nd as the first black justice of the United States Supreme Court. 68, King was assassinated. So I'm giving some context about this whole gun piece. It's all context, okay? Okay. In 68, United States Gun Control Act of 68 passed. Anti-gun journalist Robert Sherrill frankly admitted that the Gun Control Act of 68 was passed not to control guns, but to control blacks. Say this again. All this control guns, it's not about guns. It's not about the guns, family. It's to keep the guns out of black hands. Okay? The anti-gun journalist Robert Sherrill frankly admitted that the Gun Control Act of 68 was passed not to control guns, but to control blacks. And what you're saying in the 21st century with the Biden and Harris team and all those who vote against their own interests on this gun piece, it's not about them trying to protect lives. They've never tried to protect lives. They protect their interests. They don't want you to have no guns in your hands, family. Okay? The Gun Control Act of 68 was passed not to control guns, but to control blacks, insomuch as a majority of Congress did not want to do the former, but were ashamed to show that their goal was to lather. The results was they did neither. Indeed, the first gun control law passed by Congress in 30 years was one of the great jokes of our time. First of all, bear in mind that it was not passed in one piece, but was a combination of 2 laws. The original 68 Act was passed to control handguns after Reverend King was killed or assassinated. Say this again. The original 68 bill was passed to control handguns after they had assassinated King with a rifle. Then it was repealed and repassed to include the control of rifles and shotguns after the assassination of RFK, okay, with a handgun. It's never been about control, family. Okay? The moralists of our federal legislature, as well as sentimental editor writers, insist that the Act of 68 was a kind of memorial to King and Robert Kennedy. It was certainly a weird memorial as can be seen not merely by the handgun / long gun shell games. Okay. So look, I'm gonna leave that right there, because again, I think I've put out. I think I've shared it. I think I've said enough about the intentions of this current administration. Well, watch this. Well, let's go to Biden real quick. Let's hear it from the horse's mouth. Let me you know let me go here. See what Biden has to say about this his executive orders on gun control. Let's hear it from his own mouth.
Contrary to the Constitution. Gun violence in this country is an epidemic. We say it again. Gun violence in this country is an epidemic.
No doubt.
And it's an international embarrassment.
First, we will ensure that we understand and measure the problem of criminal gun trafficking in a data-driven way. Over 20 years ago, ATF undertook a gun trafficking study. It then issued a report that provided information necessary to better understand and to combat criminal trafficking networks. No such study has been conducted since that time. Accordingly, I have directed ATF to begin work on an updated study of criminal gun trafficking, one that will take into account the fact that modern guns are not simply cast or forged anymore, but can also be made of plastic, printed on a 3D printer, or sold in self-assembly kits. Second, we will close a regulatory loophole that has contributed to the proliferation of so-called ghost guns. Federal law requires that manufacturers mark all firearms with serial numbers so they can be traced if they are used in crimes. It also requires licensed firearms dealers to run background checks to ensure that individuals who are barred by law from purchasing firearms cannot do so. The emergence of ghost guns threatens both of these important law enforcement objectives.
So let me say this about this ghost gun piece. Why do you think they fear ghost guns? Who do you think they're concerned about getting these ghost guns? Who do you think they're concerned about getting these ghost guns with these non-serial numbers? Huh? Take a guess. The incarcerated? The felons? The felons. And who else? Black people. Gun control is about Black people, family. So watch this. Because nobody want a felon to get a gun, right? But let me say something right now. As again, you know I did policing for 20-something years. I'm not against a felon having a gun. If they did their time, they should be able to have. They should be afforded the opportunity and the rights to protect their family, their property, and themselves. I am not against a felon who served their time. They need to get expunged, they get a pardon, and be able to participate in the system which allows them to protect themselves, their families, their property. Okay. What Biden is trying to do. Look, nobody wants to say we got to find a way to keep the gun out of Black hands, but I'll say it. Man, look here. I've had guns. I've had guns since the 80s. Bought my first gun probably in 83. on 58th and Blaine, okay, became a law enforcement officer, gave them 20-something years of my life with guns. I'm a gun advocate. I see the writing on the road. I see the writing on the wall, family. I see that they're using technology. They're working on your emotions. To me, this is not about emotions. This is about facts. I just gave you a whole history of guns, gun control. This is not about trying to stop uh, these 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 random acts of violence against citizens. It's not about that. It's not. It's a bigger issue. How do we keep the guns out of Black hands? Okay, it's real. Okay, so again, family. Again, I've been on this thing for like almost 2 hours and a half, and there's so much more to this. So much more. I need you to go to lonewolffirearms.com. Go to lonewolffirearms.com. I need you to register to become a responsible gun owner and shooter. Okay. I need you to be serious about practicing your Second Amendment right. I need you to look at this whole gun conversation with a third eye. I need you to stop fearing being a responsible gun owner and gun user. I need you to do some research. I need you to replay this video. Yeah, I need you to just sit down. You may not be able to do it you may not be able to do it all in a 2-hour session like I'm doing right now. You may could do like 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, 15 minutes here. But I've just laid out to you from 1640 to the 1900s why gun control is a topic in this country and why it's targeted at Black people. I just showed you the root of gun control is to deny Black males from having guns or weapons. I just showed you. The embedded in the white psyche is about genetic survival. I just showed you. Who do you think who do you think is going to be the face of gun control, of gun enforcement? Who do you think will be the face? Who? Watch this, family. Maybe I shouldn't use that example. I know one thing for sure. Again, if you have followed me on social media, there was a period when I used to do this all the time. Come and give you the facts. And I got away from that because I'm on a whole different place right now. Again, you talk to me now, I'm about gun control. I'm about the study of the mind, the law of attraction. That's where I'm at right now. But I come to you today because I know this issue is very important, not just to me, but to the collective. This is not for old heads per se, because old heads are made up their mind that they're going to trust in the Lord. They're going to try their faith. But they fail to realize this, that the only reason why they can enjoy their faith and their fellowship, the only reason why they can enjoy the First Amendment, which is the right to freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, you know what I'm saying? Freedom of the press, freedom of religion, and freedom of petition, is because they have the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment protects the First Amendment. The Second Amendment protects the First Amendment. Freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, and freedom of petition are all in the First Amendment of the Constitution. But the Second Amendment protects the First Amendment. And we haven't made that connection. And hopefully I've made that connection. Even down to this Fourth Amendment. The Fourth Amendment, family. Let me read it again. And I'm gonna let you go. Because we read earlier about this Fourth Amendment. How the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue, but upon probable cause, supported by oath, affirmation, and particularly describing the places to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. But if you saw if you followed me this whole time, I showed you that the Fourth Amendment was birthed out of good, saved, born again white citizens feeling like they can just go inside black households with no searches, no warrants, looking for guns and ammunition. And that's how the Fourth Amendment was birthed. Out of illegal searches and seizures of guns and ammo, going into Negro, black, mulattoes' houses. Stop falling for what you get through this propaganda machine. Stop falling for the propaganda, family. Again, I have been away, and when you see me, I'm talking about the guns because I'm a step ahead. I've always been a step ahead. I was talking about black, but it wasn't popular. Now everybody talking about black. That's not my conversation right now. No more than the gun piece. That's my conversation on top of the law of attraction. That's where I'm at. So again, I hope you enjoyed this gun control piece. I thank you. I thank you. I thank you for tuning in. I need you to share this video and go back and listen to it and have your family listen to it. Because I just laid out the history of gun control. I just laid out why gun control is targeted towards blacks. They're not saying it, but when you know the history, you know what they're talking about. I know what they're talking about. And I know the face of gun control is going to be a black face, not a white face. Okay? So again, go to lonewolffirearms.com, register. Okay? Become a responsible gun owner and shooter. All right? Also, if you want to send any size contribution, because I'm going to give you a couple of ranges where we can have outdoor and indoor shooting. Okay, it's just that serious. I want to see Lone Wolf Firearms in every state. It's 50 states, and possibly in every city. Okay, you can Cash App $ Lone Wolf Firearm. That's $ Lone Wolf Firearm. Or again, if you go to lonewolffirearm.com, you'll see the prices for instructor services. If you need a personal instructor for you and your family, we're there for you. You know, I think if you're serious about being a responsible gun owner, gun user, you should get you an instructor. So you don't accidentally shoot yourself or shoot somebody else. It's just that serious. Okay. If you want your concealed carry weapons in Maryland, DC, or Virginia, or look, we do virtual classes too. Don't get it twisted. You got Zoom. We do a virtual class. The intro class is on Mondays and Wednesdays. HQLs is on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And Wear and Carry is on Fridays and Saturdays. You want a personal class? You want a group classes? We do it. Okay? But it's time for you to become responsible gun owners, gun users. And you need to see that this gun control is all about you not getting the gun and your families and not protecting yourselves. So again, I'm gonna let this thing go. I'm gonna end this broadcast. I want to thank you all for tuning in. I need you to share this. I'm gonna upload this to YouTube not soon after I finish this. And hopefully Facebook don't mess with me and don't ban it. But again, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for tuning in. It's been a long broadcast, but it's something that I said I was going to take my time with, and I was going to deal with this topic because we don't talk about guns, and we don't talk about who are the guns, who really want us banned. We haven't discussed the history of the guns or the history of gun control in the Black community. Now you have a little history, and hopefully you can come back and just look at it and read it, and hopefully you will become responsible gun owners, gun users. So with that said, thank you for tuning in. Always remember this. It's not how much you know, family. It's how much you care. And always remember this. There is a lone wolf in you. With that said, go to lonewolffarm.com. That's lonewolffarm.com. Or you can also write me at lonewolffarm@gmail.com. Or you can also cash app at $Lone Wolf Farm. With that said, we out of here. Peace.